Haley Outen here from the American Digital Network studio, where we continue our summer football preview series by taking a closer look at the team that took Philadelphia by storm last year. Fans of Temple football will look back on the 2015 season fondly as the one in which the Owls broke through on a national level. Temple won its first 7 games of the season, tied a school record with 10 wins, shattered its single-season attendance record, had the National Defensive Player of the Year, and won the East Division title to play in the inaugural American Football Championship game. Now in 2016, fourth-year head coach Matt Rhule looks to continue his trend of increasing the Owls' win total each year. Rhule has the benefit of 14 returning starters from last season, including quarterback Philip Walker, who enters his 4th year as the Owls' signal caller. Walker's veteran presence will be key as the Owls go with a relatively young group of receivers led by sophomore Ventel Bryant, who had 579 yards and 3 touchdown catches as a freshman. When Temple runs, it has the benefit of 3 returning starters on the offensive line, as well as a proven player in the backfield in Jahad Thomas. Thomas went for more than 1,200 yards and had 17 rushing touchdowns in 2015 and should be considered one of the better runners in college football this season. Temple lost some key players on defense, with Nagurski and Bednarik Award winner Tyler Matakevich joining Tavon Young and Matt Ioannidis in the NFL. But the Owls should once again be formidable up front, with Hassan Reddick and Praise Martin Oguike bookending the defensive line, and hard-hitting safety Sean Chandler looking to repeat as an all-conference selection. Temple's wild card could be its special teams. The Owls blocked 7 kicks last season and have proven players back in the kicking game, meaning that double-digit wins could be once again in the cards for the Owls in 2016. And to talk more about the cherry and white, we'll be joined up next by John DiCarlo from owlscoop.com. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in with us here on the ADN. We're talking Temple football today and are joined on Skype by the editor of owlscoop.com, John DiCarlo. Great to have you on the show with us again. There's a lot of excitement in Philadelphia surrounding college football after the season Temple had last year. In fact, talking to Coach Rhule at Media Day, he was the first to tell you that after so many highs last season, it didn't seem to have the right ending. What kind of determination does this team have to build upon last year's success?
Yeah, that's a good point, Haley. They've actually been talking a lot about, even today at Media Day this week, they talked a lot about the fact that they're on a 2-game losing streak, the way they see it. So they're happy with what they accomplished last year. Beating Penn State was a big deal. Almost beating Notre Dame was a big deal. Winning the division, going to the conference championship game was huge for them. But they didn't end the season well. They didn't play particularly well at Houston, and they really didn't play well at all against Toledo in the Boca Raton Bowl. So that's enough for them right there to say, okay, we can be happy with what we accomplished. But again, they keep saying 0-2 or being on a 2-game losing streak the way they see it. So that's plenty of motivation for them. Since Matt Rhule's been at Temple, they've been pretty good at coming out with a lot of energy and a lot of competitiveness in their season openers. So I think they're looking at it. They seem to be looking at it in the right way.
Yeah, and taking a look at the offense, it's a pretty special situation when you have a 4-year starter at the quarterback position, in this case, Philip Walker. What would you say is the biggest area of growth in his game as he's matured over the years?
Well, it is a unique situation, like you said, because they haven't had too many 3.5 or 4-year starters, because I think their initial intention was to redshirt him as a freshman, but they decided to kind of burn his redshirt and throw him in there. So biggest area for growth for him has been his decision to not force things. He cut down on turnovers last year. I think Glenn Thomas was a huge help with that. When you have a guy who can come in as your quarterback's coach, who was working with the Atlanta Falcons or work with Matt Ryan and have been around Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and guys like that. So PJ cut down on his, I should call him Philip. He's changed his name now to Philip. So cutting down on turnovers, not forcing things. And now this year, he's talked a lot about wanting to get his completion percentage up and knowing that he needs to get it up from, 57, 58% to like 65, 68, 70%. That's where he really wants to get things, spread the ball out a little bit more. But I think he did a pretty good job last year of just diagnosing plays, again, not forcing things, staying within the flow of the offense. And if something wasn't there on third down, just throw the ball away because field position is important. So I think that was a huge, huge area of growth in his game last year. And next year, this season will be, again, knowing when to take those chances, staying within the flow of the offense, handing the ball off. Even though Glenn Thomas will be their offensive coordinator now, they might open things up a little bit more, but I still think they'll be, very run-oriented and still try to wear teams down. So I think it'll be sticking with that mentality. But again, for Walker, getting that completion percentage up, he has a lot of receivers he can throw to. They did lose Kip Patton, a tight end, to a Tennessee Tech as a transfer, but they've got some options there on offense, and that'll be the next area of growth for him to keep the interceptions down and bump his completion percentage up.
His buddy in the backfield, Jahad Thomas, these two go way back to the high school days playing together. He's a dangerous option on the ground for the Owls. How much does his experience and skill add to the offensive firepower?
What you saw at the end of the year, at the end of the season, was Jahad got banged up. He was banged up against Notre Dame. He was playing with a rib injury. And then in the bowl game against Toledo, he ended up getting a grade 1 sprain, a knee sprain that kind of set him back a little bit in the offseason. He was ready by the time spring ball came around. But they just talked this week at Media Day about mixing things up. You'll probably see him in the slot. You'll see him doing some different things, getting him out in space a little bit more because they know he can run the ball. They know that he can make people miss. I mean, he had some great runs against Notre Dame, some great runs against Penn State, against some great defenses. But they know that if they continue to run him 22, 25, 28 times a game, he's going to wear down. And you have somebody like Rhule Armstead, who's going to be a sophomore this season, who they look at as someone with a really, really bright future. And another interesting thing that I've seen in camp so far is a true freshman, Isaiah Wright, has been working in as a running back in addition to being a receiver. He was a highly touted receiver. He's actually getting some time as a running back. So you could see some interesting things on offense there as well.
All right, let's talk about the defense for a second. Many from the outside looking in might assume that this group has quite a few question marks after losing guys like Tyler Matakevich, Matt Ioannidis, and Tavon Young. What's the reality of where this defense is at just over a week now until the season? Can they be just as good, if not better, than last year's group?
I think they can, and I think they're having a lot of fun with that challenge because they certainly realized that Tyler Matakevich was a special player. They realized that Matt Ioannidis and Tavon Young were special too, and they had great players at every level of defense there. But they have some guys that redshirted last year or some other players who are really coming into their own, and they want to be just as good, because Temple is now getting accustomed to sending players into the NFL. So at linebacker, for example, some guys like Deshaun Grimes, Chappelle Russell, Sean Bradley, there's some really fast, really athletic linebackers. And if you look at some of the games that Temple played last year, it's interesting. They played very well against Penn State. Obviously, they had 10 sacks. They played well enough to beat Notre Dame. They hit DeShone Kizer. They forced some turnovers there. But there were some other games, USF, Houston. I mean, I realize that, with Houston, Greg Ward made a lot of people look bad. But against USF, that defense did not play well. Against SMU, they gave up 40 points because team speed was an issue. And there were some teams that really gave them problems, particularly USF. So they think they have some young linebackers like Russell, like Grimes, like Sean Bradley, who can really go sideline to sideline, might honestly be faster than Tyler Matakevich. Are they ever going to be better than Tyler Matakevich? That's the question. You can't automatically say that they will be, but that's the challenge for this program, and I think they're having fun with that. They've moved Sean Chandler from cornerback to safety because I think they have the depth at cornerback to be able to do that. They have a true freshman coming in Linwood Crump, who's really fast, who they like. So they're experimenting with some things on defense. So I think they're having a lot of fun with being able to rise to that challenge because I think they know that people remember the Penn State game and the Notre Dame game, but the defense, on the other hand, remembers that they had a lot of work to do against USF and SMU and some of those other games I mentioned. So I think the athleticism is there. The defensive coordinator is there, and Phil Snow, he's a great defensive coordinator. Again, the question I think will be just, how will these younger guys adapt over time, and can they kind of rise to the challenge, so to speak?
And lastly, I have to ask you what it was like last year watching Temple's success in the city of Philly. Are people more bought in now to college football? How do you think not only the Penn State win, but just the overall performance from last year impacted this program's stamp and what is generally perceived as a pro sports town?
Yeah, it was something else. I mean, this was a program that about 10 years ago was nearly dropped and was pretty much the worst college football program in America. So the turnaround over the last decade has been pretty remarkable. I don't think anybody could have ever foreseen college game day being in Philly. And not only was it in Philly, but people turned out for it. It was right in front of Independence Hall. The place was packed. There was a lot of energy. A lot of people who were only casually interested in college football got really interested in college football and kind of started to notice, like, wow, this Jahad Thomas kid is pretty good. Oh, wow, Tyler Matakevich might get drafted. Matt Ioannidis is pretty good. And you're right. It is always going to be a pro sports town. It's Eagles first, second, and third. People are excited more about the Sixers now with Ben Simmons and that whole thing. And I think it's always going to be a pro sports town. But for Temple to have made a dent in that last year was a really, really big deal because it's not something you're accustomed to seeing. And now heading into this year, the crowds are going up. You're starting to see attendance go up at their games. And that, again, that's a pretty significant thing because it is such a pro sports obsessed town. So to see the Notre Dame atmosphere, the Penn State atmosphere, it was really something else. There are a lot of people in the city here just kind of looking around and saying, I never thought I would see an atmosphere like this here in Philadelphia because it's so pro sports focused. So that was a pretty cool thing to see last year and a pretty historic thing for the Temple football program. It's something that they don't take for granted because it's pretty commonplace at Alabama, LSU, and all these college towns. So for it to happen here in Philadelphia was a big deal.
All right, John. Well, I know we're looking forward to seeing Temple take the field now just a week away. I can't believe it's already back. Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us today.
No problem. Thanks, Haley. Appreciate it.
All right, well, here's a look at Temple's 2016 opening schedule. They don't actually leave the state of Pennsylvania in the first 5 weeks of the season. It will be Friday Night Lights as the Owls open up at home against Army September 2nd. Then we'll welcome Stony Brook to the Link in Week 2. September 17th, it's up to State College for an in-state showdown against the Nittany Lions, and then back home to take on UNC Charlotte. Thanks for tuning in with us here at the ADN. I'm Haley Outen.